Welcome to the Geeks, 31 Days of Horror for Halloween. This is Lil.
This is Steve.
And we've got with us again, Mike D, who's wearing the shirt of the movie we're reviewing tonight. Mike, what are we reviewing tonight?
Driller Killer from Abel Ferrara. I love him.
From 1979.
I'm so happy that you guys allowed me to corrupt you and do this. This was my corruption movie. I usually get two movies. Usually one's a good one, throwaway, whatever. And then one's a real corruption movie. This is a corruption movie. So I hope you're ready.
It is. So for those of you who have not been with us before, we'll play for you our rating system.
There's a rating system in place that we like to call 0 to 0. If whatever horror movie we're reviewing is terrifying only to the most infantile who get nightmares from PG-13 reboots, it gets a 0. If it's a gorgasm-inducing slaughter party that satiates your most devious and monstrous desires, it gets a 0.
An artist slowly goes insane while struggling to pay his bills, work on his paintings, and care for his two female roommates, which leads him to taking to the streets of New York after dark and randomly killing derelicts with a power drill. Yeah, that's kind of what happens here. I mean, that is what happens. So Driller Killer, Abel Ferrara, directorial debut.
Yes.
Is this his first movie he actually acted in as well?
First real movie that he made. He did some porn and some sleaziness along the way. But this is... So let me just start off by saying there's New York movies, right? There, especially of a certain era. There are movies that embody New York, right? And we did the slasher, right? No, New York Ripper.
Yeah,
New York Ripper, a couple of years ago, and that's a New York movie. Like that was where they allowed some Ginzo director to come over and shoot a movie in New York. They let people do anything in New York in the late 70s, early 80s because there was nothing. New York was a fucking disastrous town. It was a shithole. It was totally open, right? So people filmed what would go on to become cinematic classic scenes on the most famous streets in the world. And so this movie is one of those movies, and it holds a very special place in my heart as a New Yorker, because there's scenes in this movie where I'm like, I've been on that street and it looks exactly the same right now. The buildings look the same. Like nothing has really changed much. So to me, this movie has a double entendre of a meaning. So,
well, and I do have to, I mean, you did say it, but I do have to say that it's not his directorial debut. It's his directorial debut, in, like you said, outside of porn, because I'm seeing some of the titles here. I mean, he directed a movie called 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy.
As one might. That would be something I'd usually recommend to you guys.
So this is his first, I don't know if you want to call it legitimate movie, but I guess it is his first legitimate movie. So, Mike, since we did another movie with you previously, and I had you start, I'm going to have Steve start with his thoughts and review of Driller Killer.
So, I've never seen this before, so I don't have that nostalgia that Mike does, right? So I can't try to go back to my fond memories of my first times watching this. I've also never been to New York, so none of this, the locations don't bring up fond memories either. I will say that, what's her name? Baby Day?
Yeah.
Vision. I was so intrigued by that character, and I don't know why.
The second girlfriend.
Yeah. She just had this weird
girlfriend of the girlfriend, I guess.
Aura, this weird way of talking. It looked like she was super stoned, like in real life, all the time. Like,
oh, she was.
That's called
drugs.
Yeah. The band. I mean, the band almost drove me like actually crazy. Like I hated this band.
And they were this punk band that was terrible.
Just on and on. It felt like this was just like the director's friend's band, and it was just like, I just want to get as much of you as I can on here, and I I didn't like that. And also, as someone that uses power tools for a living on a daily basis, the logistics of this movie don't make any sense.
Well, he bought the belt that gives it a cordless
The
power.
proto pack.
Yes.
The proto pack doesn't exist.
So
And if it did, it'd be a lot more than $20.
yeah,
So, like, a battery for a drill is like
I know, it's like
$80.
$100. I know, I just bought one.
It's nuts. So it's like, and also like he was using the smallest drill bits for so much of it. I'm like, there's paddle bits. There are drill bits you can get at Home Depot right now that will kill people, that will really hurt people. But the little ones he was using ain't gonna do much. It's like, I mean, it would, but it would take a long time. It's a nit that I'm gonna pick throughout because it's just, and like I've been drilling through like wood, and then you get stuck, you hit a knot, and it's like, I mean, I got to imagine you hit a bone, like it's gonna wrench your wrist a little bit or something. He just fucking zzz.
I love when Steve gets on a nit to pick. He just fucking goes all in. It could be something like, it's just a drill, just killing people, dude. Just let it go. No, man, the drill doesn't fucking use.
That's what you want to talk about?
It's not the right torque. It's
not.
The bit is too small.
I saw it. It was on 2, not 1, the whole time. Like, there's no way that's fucking killing that guy.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He doesn't take care of his shit. Where does he even charge this proto pack? There's no power at his apartment. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What kind of long-lasting fucking Duracell battery is this shit?
So I'm sitting at like a low sidekick. It's just I don't have that nostalgia for it. I did find a couple of the kills with the drill pretty cool. Like you get one in the head that's pretty good. The one through the glass that was pretty cool. But I felt like there was just a lot of like filler scenes that weren't really doing it much. So that's where I'm at, Mike. I'm sure you're going to school me and tell me how wrong I am, and I'm waiting. I will take the lesson, but for me, that's where I'm at right now. But before you give yours, I'm going to let Lil give his, and then you can grace us with your words of wisdom.
Yeah, so I have all the same nits to pick, not the drill power nits, but to me, what like. If I'm having fun with the movie and finding things to enjoy, I give it passes a lot of the times, and a lot of people, even on the interwebs mess with me. Is like, did I have fun with it? Then it's like, I'm going to give it some more praise. This movie I found no fun in. I found no redeeming qualities in anybody in the movie. And I'm watching this and I'm like, it felt like Abel Ferrara was trying to make like this weird art house, grindhouse type movie, and I'm like, you are missing the point. Like this buffalo shit, they keep showing his buffalo that he's praising the eye, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the meaning, and I'm like, nah, he's just going crazy, and he's just I just don't get it. I don't get why these two girls are with him. I don't get anything. I don't get that he's going mad.
So many scenes of him eating. Like, God, that pizza scene was like 5 minutes long.
Oh, and he's just eating it disgustingly, right? Like nobody else is getting any slices, and he's just and I'm like, yo, like, come on, you've got these two beautiful women who are like for some odd reason with you for a reason, and you're just treating them like fucking.
Well, he's an artist.
Garbage.
He's an artist. You see, he's got some nice art on the wall in there, man. When they show some of that stuff from far out, it's not bad.
You know, it wasn't his. I mean, come on. But okay, I'm teetering on a 0 because I have no enjoyment from watching this movie whatsoever, and that's my problem, Mike. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I know you're going to give me some facts and bring things up here. I just had nothing to enjoy with this movie.
All right,
I was expecting the fun. I was expecting, Master Sardu's and all this kind of weird shit.
Something.
Yeah. And no.
So I gave this specific movie to you guys because this is where you have to start with Abel Ferrara, okay? As a director, this guy has lived as charmed a life as anybody has ever lived, okay? This is a guy who finessed his way into some sort of film school or, like made his way into some sort of I'm going to make a movie, and then turn that into an actual career where people will pay him to make movies, which no one should give this guy any money to do anything. They shouldn't give this guy any money to do carpentry in their house. They shouldn't give this guy any fucking money to build anything in their yard. Like, this guy should never get any money to do anything, right? But he's got a certain charm and a certain quality to him where he's gonna, whatever he wants to do, whatever it is, he's gonna do it, and he's gonna be successful.
So he's like that guy who made that. What was that movie that James Franco made? Like about
the Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
Oh
Room?
yeah.
The Room?
Oh yeah. The Room. Yeah. He kind of has that quality to it, but actually talented, right? So.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
This movie might not be the greatest, and I will say I give this a sidekick. This is for me, it's in the middle of the pack of his
movies.
His movies.
So he's got worse movies than this.
I mean, he's got movies.
I'm not counting the porn.
What I'm saying is, he's got movies where he was just making shit that maybe didn't land for me. You know what I mean? So, like, once he became established, he's made a ton of movies, and I've seen some of them. Not all of them work for me, but the ones that do, they are like killer. And you got to get to a certain point to make, so like I always think of Wes Craven, who made a bunch of big movies, Last House on the Left, Hills Have Eyes. Like, he made a bunch of movies, and then he made Nightmare on Elm Street. People were like, yes, Wes Craven has arrived. Like, he's been here. Like, Wes Craven's been around, but like he arrived to you, Same thing with different directors who might have 2, 3, 4 movies before they actually land, and then all of a sudden people are like, yes, this guy finally did it. And they're like, no, he's been doing it. Like, he's been fine, but these are better, right? So Miss 45 is one of his greatest movies. Amazing exploitation movie, excellent. You guys said before, oh, well, he's trying to do something. No, he was doing it because this era was when they were just shooting fucking shit for no reason. In New York, they had no rhyme or reason to do anything. Nobody should be here. In 1976, 77, 78, it was a fucking war zone in New York, right?
Yeah.
Like, literally, Fear City. They put out flyers with a Grim Reaper on it and said, don't come here. That was the fucking city, mascot of that era, right? And yet here he was. He's a student. He's living in this time period in his early 20s, and he decides, I'm just going to start shooting whatever the fuck I want. From that aspect, I kind of respect it, and I totally understand why people wouldn't get it or like it, but it is a necessary first step, because when you see Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel,
I've seen Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah, I'm saying,
I've seen Body Snatchers. I've seen
when you see King of New York, Christopher Walken, which is one of the greatest gangster movies ever made. Like, I'll put it up against anything. It's one of the greatest drug dealer gangster movies made of that era, the mid 90s. I'll put it up against New Jack City. I'll put it up against Juice. I'll put it up against anything. Boys in the Hood. I'll put it up against anything, because that movie is fucking killer. Why? Because he has Christopher Walken. Why does he have Christopher Walken? Because he made 4 movies with Christopher Walken before that movie. You know what I'm saying? So he's kind of a movement in New York. And I kind of felt like when I told you guys, I didn't want you guys to cheat. I didn't want you guys to be like, hey, watch, The Addiction, or watch this or watch that, because those are later. And I think that you might have been like, I don't get this either. But you got to see the evolution of him. So I do give this a sidekick. Okay. Straight up for this movie, but I also own a T-shirt with it. So it just tells you how much I love it as a movie. So.
Well, no, but I mean, you can respect movies that you don't necessarily think or that you don't love, or like you can have love for movies that are terrible, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it all comes back to your personal preferences and like this shit that you're nostalgic for. Personally, I know the 1995 Power Rangers movie is garbage, but I still like it. It's part of my childhood. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I was like fucking 11. Like it was all right, But with this, there's just like, it felt like this movie could have been like 35 minutes long if it just wasn't for like some of the long shots of like, come on, you gotta come get your clothes, man. Come get your suitcase, man. Like, fuck, this is like forever. We're just sitting here watching you wallow on the street. And I get it. It's like art, and it's acting and all that. But I'm just like, let's go. Let's go.
Are we into spoilers yet? Are we going to do spoilers?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, yeah.
So I think like this is a student film in every way, shape, and form. And that's very important to establish, right? Because when people watch TX 183 or when people watch Black Star and Dark Star, not Black Star, great rap group, Dark Star, John Carpenter's student film at USC. When people watch those movies, they're like, yeah, but. They always say, yeah, but. Like, it sucks, but. Like, George Lucas sucks.
You
in
can
THA.
see.
That's what this is for Abel Ferrara. The only difference is he just fucking finessed the whole thing. Like, he wasn't at USC. He wasn't even, like fucking. None of this was on the map for New York. He was just doing it. And like you guys mentioned, like the two girlfriends, like those were probably his real girlfriends. And like, you know what I mean? Like he was doing the New York art scene vibe, but he was filming it. And like somebody had the wherewithal to turn around and be like, let's turn the camera on this, And that's why I think it's like an hour and a half of a student film that should have been 35 minutes or much shorter. Because if it was much shorter, it would be much more concise. And you'd be like, yeah, there was a reason for that. Because he had to turn it in for a grade. This guy didn't turn it in for shit. This guy made this movie for himself.
Yeah.
And then
somebody paid him to do it. Yeah.
And then it just so happened that it might have evolved into something a little bit more down the road. So I think that you could see that from the very get. And I think that's a great point that you made there, Steve.
I think my problem, again, when we go with this movie is when we go into him like losing it and killing people and the random killings. And I get it, right? Like it's supposed to be random killings, right? But like he's doing it so out in the open and being like, it wasn't like it, like these areas he was in, it wasn't nowhere. Like
but there weren't cops around at that time.
Nobody
cared.
cared.
I know. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you're right.
You could just do that and walk home and eat a hamburger out of the refrigerator.
But yeah, it's not like the cop in fucking Street.
There was more screen time of him eating and drinking than there was of any actual killing.
But why would there be that? Because he's just like, I could just shoot myself eating a pizza, and I could get 20 minutes worth of footage out of this meal. With like thinking the mentality that he's thinking, I got to shoot a movie, I gotta make an hour and a half, and it's like this is a psychotic man. This is not a person who's normal, and if you watch any of his movies moving forward, there's not a single normal fucking moment in any of his movies, all the way through, like till current day.
He's got this weird fucking landlord who's like, oh, the band's not a problem for me. Here, I got you a gift. Here, it's a rabbit. You're fucking cooking. I'm like, what the fuck? He's just got a rabbit hanging up in like his cupboard that's like got books and shit. It's not even like a food cupboard. Like it's like hanging there with his shirts and shit.
Well, you see the kind of place you're living, man. It's fucking. It's weird too because it seems like he's getting money from this art guy, but yet like
you know what I was thinking when he took that fucking rabbit and he's like dismembering it so he could cook it up by candlelight. I'm like, man. Artists in the 70s were built different, bro. Like artists today would not know what the fuck to do. They'd be like, oh, Uber Eats isn't working. I need to call my parents. This was like field dressing a rabbit by candlelight.
I mean, I really do think that that's part of the the nostalgia of the movie. I think it's part of an era of filmmaking, of especially New York filmmaking. But at the same time, it's so sad for me as a New Yorker because this predates me a little bit. Like my existence.
79, right? Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, I'm born in 79, so this predates me. But like, I hear all the horror stories of like what the city was like at that point, what everybody was doing at that point, and it was just mayhem, right? And so here's a guy who took that mayhem and like kind of focused it in a direction that turned into a 40-year career. And you got to kind of respect that a little bit because not a lot of people did that from that area and from that time period. And he did it under kind of his own auspices. He did it the way he wanted to do it. But this movie, I think, just is like ridiculous. Like it's like almost like a reality television of somebody following him around in 1979. Like if you told me what his life was like in 1979, I would say watch this movie because it's probably very similar to this. And I think a lot of it was, hey, hold this camera while I just act what I'm doing in real life. And I think that's kind of amazing because this is fucking nuts. Like this existence is nuts. Eating like this is nuts. Living like this is nuts. Like this whole idea where you go to a rich guy's and he's just going to give you a couple of $1,000 and you're going to like be able to subside for 3 months. That's fucking nuts. And like none of us understand.
No financial security at all.
Yeah, but also like whatever. And then like you mentioned, like you're like the band. Oh, it's probably like his friend. No, it's definitely his friend. Like that's an actual punk band from then or whatever it is. And like if this movie was made in 1986, you'd be like, that's a fictional punk band representing something that they read in a book or saw from a story or somewhere. No, those fucking guys had nothing to do. So he's like, I'm gonna just shoot this camera on you, and they were like, yeah, cool, no doubt.
Biggest sin of this movie: this fucking punk band didn't get drilled. All right,
oh, right.
I needed that whole apartment to turn into a bloodbath of like he finally gets pushed over the edge by the music. They were setting it up. They had that weird fucking feral bum out there that was like, we had to watch a whole fucking 15-minute Gollum scene with him fucking walking around like looking for his precious. Like what? He didn't even have a beard. It looked like he'd been outside for like 4 hours. Like what the fuck is going on? And then
he was a new bum.
And then Abel Ferrara comes out and like, I don't know what he put his fucking hands up on, but that's not how. Like he's like zzz, zzz, and his hands are just stuck to the wall. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
Yeah, he drilled him into the wall. I don't know how that works exactly. I'm not saying the physics are right.
He didn't have a screw on that bit at all.
Like, so you had to get the fucking masonry bit out first. You had to re-drill the fucking pilot hole, set the anchor, like all this shit, all this prep work. You have to measure it like 25 times.
1979. You don't have to do anything. You just go.
Oh, no.
You want the hole here?
You see those houses.
You want the hole here?
Yeah.
What about that scene in the beginning?
Well, and I didn't, like, what the fuck do you even want a hole for? Like, for what? She's just, like, standing there like I'm going to drill a hole in the door. Like,
what
it's
about
the door to the pantry. For what?
But he comes out and he's like, hey, you all right? And she's like, I'm just trying to drill this hole. And he's like, the fucking thing is wrapped around. The cord is wrapped around it like 76 times. And he's like, hold on, let me get this out. Hold on. And like he's unwrapping her on the fucking thing. And I'm like, you guys did this. You wrapped her in that fucking thing before the shot? Like that was their planned shot. That was the most planned shot in the whole movie.
But like nobody asked like on set, like, but why are we drilling a hole? Like, it's like because she's fucked up. Like, yeah, we're just drilling a fucking hole.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the charm of it. It's very ridiculous. It's supposed to be stupid and overly nonsensical, but what it gets is it captures this essence of the time period, right? And if you're a New Yorker and you watch this movie and you see locations and you see things and it's fucking terrible and disgusting and you've never known that in those locations, it's kind of a mind fuck for you. right? Like, because like there's people like I'm of a certain age, right? I'm 44 years old, but I also lived a very crazy life. Like at 14 years old, I was doing things in New York I shouldn't have been doing. I was going places I shouldn't have been going. I was in the city. I was out there. Like I was living a little bit of a crazy life. When people see New York for what it is at that time period, it is kind of eye-opening and kind of like, nah, no way. It's almost like somebody made an imaginary land like Oz. And they're like, this is what it was like. And when you talk to anybody who was alive back then, they're like, nah, that's fucking real. Actually, it's not even close. It's actually worse, you know? And so I can't even imagine trying to shoot a fucking feature in that setting. Like that's what's baffling to me. Like this guy's got sound guys walking around with fucking microphones. This is the 70s, right?
Oh,
he's got giant boom mics, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is. And like you couldn't put stuff down. You couldn't do nothing. Like the whole fucking city was on fire. And I can't even imagine what that must have been like. So to me, that's why this one is like special. And like why I recommended it to you guys, because I didn't want you guys to jump in ahead. Like you should maybe find later stuff. I mean, and most of you guys have probably seen Bad Lieutenant with Harvey Keitel. It's considered to be like a fucking classic movie. And King of New York, Christopher Walken. Those are graduate projects. You know what I mean? Like this is an undergraduate project from the same dude. So, you know, everybody else gets the same respect. Why shouldn't he?
It's, I have seen Bad Lieutenant. I have seen Body Snatchers. I haven't seen Miss 45, so I don't know a lot about all of his stuff. But yeah, you can see the seeds of something here. I just like this Carol chick that's like with him. Like you find out like she used to be married. This guy Steven is like sending her fucking love letters and shit still. And then like at one point she gets pissed off at Reno is his name, and she leaves him and goes back to Steven. And Steven's just like, what a simp, man. He just welcomes her back like, man, you didn't even like, she didn't even get checked out first or nothing. Wild.
Checked out? They didn't even have STDs back then. They were like, yeah, whatever.
And then like I was like, why did they get divorced to begin with? And then like they're kissing in the kitchen. I'm like, oh, that's why. Ugh. Like this was like, like what are you doing? Like looked like he was like trying to feed the baby there. It was wild.
Yeah, there's no normality in any scene in this movie. And that's because there was no normality in life for these people. And if you really truly put yourself in that perspective, that's where you could kind of accept it a little bit more as like, this is crazy. But like this fucking dude, he didn't have costumes. That's what he wore. Like he was in that fucking denim outfit all day. And like that's what he wore through the whole shooting. When he smeared pizza sauce on his face, he probably didn't take a fucking shower before he shot the next day. Like this is the kind of lifestyle that they lived at that time. It was sex, drugs, rock and roll, like full blast. It was, you know, crazy. And what's really nuts is
dirty.
That
it was
he lived that he's lived that lifestyle this whole time. He still lives in the same place in New York. He still is in the same neighborhood in New York. So people who I know personally, like I used to see him every morning in the deli, or I used to see him at the laundromat, or I used to see him, you know, like walking down the street. I've met him numerous times on the streets of New York because that motherfucker is like, I live here. I lived through the fucking Jurassic period of this fucking city. There's no way I'm gonna relocate to Westchester or, you know, the country or something like that. Fuck that. Like I'm gonna die in this fucking apartment. And like he's lived in the same area and like kind of frequenting the same places for 50 years. And it's kind of
control, right?
Yeah, well that, but I mean like it transcends like multiple generations of people, where it's like I know people who are in their 20s and they know who he is from being around him in Manhattan. And then I know people that are older than me and they were like, oh, he was my neighbor. And that's kind of crazy because it's like this guy actually did it. This guy has made 20 plus films. He's gotten studio budgets. You know, they gave him a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, think about that. Like that, you're talking about a fucking, you know what I mean? Like a huge title for a major studio. And they gave it to him. And he killed it. It's fucking fantastic. So as much as I have to talk about this movie here, I want to say, like, give his overall thing a chance. And that's kind of why I wanted to introduce it to you guys, because I've given you guys things in the past years, but I've given you the best of people. You know, I've given you the best of Argento. I've given you some of the best of Fulci and stuff like that. And I didn't want to do that this time. This time I wanted to give you kind of an entry point. And then if you're kind of interested, or maybe like, how good could he be? Well, you watch a couple of those movies and you tell me, and you'll be pretty surprised, because the guy actually became a competent filmmaker. I don't think he ever was one. I don't think he initially was a competent filmmaker, but I think he became one eventually, and I think he made some really fucking memorable movies.
And I think the other thing too is, like, he directed and starred in this movie, so that's a lot of work. And when you're not proficient in either, it's it's very telling on screen, right?
Yeah, and then he said the same thing about his the 9 Lives of Pussy movie. He said, imagine if you paid a guy $200 to come fuck your girlfriend, and then he can't get it up. And then he had to step in front of the camera and actually film himself fucking his girlfriend. And it's like, yeah, I bet that would probably suck. But that was Tuesday for them. They did nothing. They were maniacs. They were psychopaths. They were literally living a dystopian dream.
Yeah,
where they were like, oh, we're going to make a movie and we're going to sell it to Hollywood. It was like, no, you're not. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
We're going to sell tapes out of our trunk of the movie.
The fact that it actually worked out is nuts. Like, the fact that he made a movie with Harvey Keitel, the fact that he, would make a movie with Christopher Walken, the fact that a studio like Warner Brothers would offer him Invasion of the Body Snatchers, fucking insane. And especially if you watch his first, 5 movies. You're like, what? It's like, come on, get out of here. It's not like the first 2 movies. First fucking 5 movies are absolutely batshit crazy, but he was just a dude in his era doing his thing. And so when there's a t-shirt coming that I love, it's called Rough Cut Fan Club. When they make t-shirts, I pay attention because they usually go deep cut. They usually go and so when I saw they had a Drilla Killer t-shirt, I was like, yes. I was probably the first person to buy this fucking shirt.
And
because,
And only.
No. It's a bestseller, bud. No, but I like those guys are great. They're in Philadelphia, and they make shirts based on not necessarily what you know somebody from, but what you should maybe know somebody from. And I think that's kind of cool from a t-shirt perspective, because you're like, everybody can make their best known movie, but let's do something a little different. And so if you're really a fan of a director, that's what you look for when you're trying to buy a shirt or a hat or something like that. And so when I saw this, I was like, yes, right away. Because to me, this is like the quintessential Abel Ferrara movie. If you watch this movie and you get it at all, you get him as a human, as a director. And if you remotely connect with him, God, I feel bad for you, because then you totally understand his filmography, which sucks, because that means you're a strange person and you're probably a fucking weirdo. And people should watch you moving forward, because we don't know how things are going to work out. So I'm definitely on 5-6 watch lists for sure. Just based on what I consume on a regular basis. So yeah, if you like this, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
and I like it.
I can see. I can definitely see that, because I did not. So that's okay. It's okay to not like something. It's okay to like something.
There was a few nipples in this one, not as much as I usually send you guys. I definitely disappointed.
Yeah, but the scene that was there, but the scene that was it was a good scene. So
the shower scene.
Yes. Quite nice.
They did not waste any film on that one. They
Nope.
just shot as long as they wanted to on that one, right? Great.
Quite
That's
nice.
too funny. That's too funny. Well, thank you, Mike, again for bringing us another
Another banger.
I was gonna say, yeah, not a masterpiece, but a banger.
No, I want to introduce stuff to you
I
guys. That's what I'm
I
trying to do.
appreciate it. So why don't you tell everybody there, everybody out here, where they can find you?
Well, I'm the co-host of the Jack Kirby podcast, a comic podcast that we talk about Jack Kirby and his art, but we interview tons of people from comics and movies and stuff like that who love Jack Kirby. So you can find us at Jacked_Kirby on Instagram. And me personally, I'm a huge horror fan, as you guys probably know. We've been listening for a couple of years now. Joining these guys every October makes my year. And I have an Instagram page, Master Sardu's Archive, at Master Sardu's Archive. And I kind of do all kinds of old and new horror, just fun stuff that I enjoy. So if you guys are interested in horror, come look at me up over there.
Yep, and we did review that movie, which was
Bloodsucking Freaks.
The start of my wife saying, "Oh, okay, so these are the movies that the New Yorkers are showing you." All right.
Yeah. So he's not invited to the Christmas party.
But it is like it's a good feeling when this time of year comes around. I'm like, I can't wait to see what Mike and Tommy are going to pick.
Mike have for us. Yeah, exactly. What do they got for us this time?
Yeah.
So
next year I'm gonna have some crazy stuff planned. I think I'm gonna start getting it. We got to get ahead of it. You know, I get ahead of it.
Let's do it. So, well, thank you again. Thank you guys all out there for listening. Thank you for your support. This is Lil.
This is Steve.
And this is Mike D.
Until tomorrow night, everybody, keep it creepy.